Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm Jonathan Heasty. I have the privilege of being the Portfolio Director for RX Global's travel events, and I would very much like to welcome all of you, especially our ministers, excellencies, travel leaders, and distinguished guests. A very warm welcome to the 18th Annual Ministers' Summit here at World Travel Market 2024, run in association with United Nations Tourism and the World Travel and Tourism Council. As is the case each and every year, this summit brings together global leaders from both the private and public sector to debate emerging trends and key challenges within the industry, with the aim of tabling critical topics for discussion, supporting innovation and driving change. This year, ladies and gentlemen, will be no exception. In an ever-evolving world, a clear choice for today's topic was a discussion on emerging technologies, with a focus on artificial intelligence and how it will transform tourism as we know it. With an increasing demand for innovative solutions to both enhance travel experiences and to streamline global processes, today stakeholders will explore the benefits of these, as well as ethical considerations, and share how the industry can provide adaptable and robust solutions in the face of such fast-paced digital change. I'm delighted to welcome Geeta Gurumurthy, Chief Presenter at BBC News, who will be moderating today's discussion and who will be joined by prominent voices from the world's leading tourism bodies. Natalia Bayona, Executive Director at UN Tourism, and Julia Simpson, President and CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council. I'd also like to thank all of you for being here today. Thank you for your time. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to hand over to Julia Simpson at WTTC. Please give her a round of applause for joining me on the stage.
Well, good morning, everybody. Your Excellencies, Secretary General, who can't be with us today, but obviously to our wonderful Natalia Bayona, who is the UN Tourism's Director. And I would also like to thank Juliet Losardo, the WTM Exhibition Director, who has just told me this has been a sold-out event and it's been difficult getting seats for everybody. So welcome all of you to the World Travel Market's very important dialogue that UN Tourism organises with the private sector. And it's a great honour for me today to open the dialogue. Days like this aren't just conversations between the public and private sectors. They represent a consequential and powerful opportunity to unite and decide how we as a sector can build a successful future that's resilient, sustainable and inclusive. A future which allows our customers, our businesses and our communities to thrive together. We just had an incredible session at the G20 in Brazil, where businesses and governments focused on three key challenges. Firstly, the skills gap and attracting talent that still remains in many parts of our sector. Secondly, how we ensure communities in popular destinations don't feel like an extra in their own film, but can really see and feel the value that travel and tourism brings to communities. And thirdly, and probably most importantly, how travel and tourism has the power to bring people together, create cross-boundary, cross-country understanding. And as we've witnessed some of the devastating events of Valencia, and our heart goes out to everybody in Spain, it made me pause to think about how our sector is often there helping rebuild after Fukushima, after the terrible earthquakes that we saw in Turkey, after the terrible tidal hurricane that we saw in Acapulco. In that same way, we will stand united with Visit Valencia to help Valencia and the people of Spain rebuild. Travel and tourism is absolutely, indisputably booming. WTTC research shows that in 2023, our sector contributed nearly $10 trillion to the global economy and was supporting 330 million jobs. Well, this year, we're set to break that record again, with projections surpassing $11 trillion. Just to give you an idea of that, aviation on its own represents $2 trillion of that $11 trillion. And our sector will be supporting 348 million jobs globally. That's an increase of 14 million jobs since 2019. And I always say to people, if you can't get your head around what 348 million people look like, well, it's bigger than the population of North America. Better yet, we are looking in the next decade, in 2034, for our sector to represent 11% of global GDP and be creating 450 million jobs. That means we project travel and tourism will create over 100 million jobs between now and 2034. But this growth is much more, as we all know in this room, than statistics. It symbolises our sector's resilience and its unique power to uplift communities, support livelihoods, and enrich the lives of people all over the world. And for governments here today, I want to remind you of another important contribution that we make in travel and tourism. We contributed $3.3 trillion in direct taxes to governments' coffers. So if we didn't exist as a sector, we would not be putting those taxes into government's pockets. And of course, those revenues are income that help build schools, roads, and hospitals. But with success comes rising expectations, and today's travellers are looking for seamless, safe, efficient processes. They want and expect sustainable and inclusive experience. So as we get bigger, our growth means we have an even bigger responsibility to protect and preserve both people and planet. And that means addressing global challenges such as climate change. Now, today, one of the focuses of this today is technology. So I just want to talk briefly about AI. We know technology is a great enabler. I remember in the aviation sector, we were one of the first businesses that put our sector online. So we can be innovative and we can be leaders. Artificial intelligence is obviously going to help us meet new demands and strengthen our role as a driver of positive change. Here at WTTC, we're taking AI very seriously. I always say AI isn't something to be discussed in your technology department. It's something to be discussed around the CEO's table. And we collaborated with leading technology company and wonderful WTTC member, Microsoft. So please, if you haven't read the 3 reports, please have a look at them. One thing that it shows us is AI definitely can streamline operation, personalize our experiences, and make resource use much more sustainable. It can reduce inefficiency, lower costs, and look at our environmental impacts in a much more intelligent way. But despite its potential, I have to stand here today and tell you that our sector is way behind other industries globally in terms of adopting AI. I think this delay has specific reasons. First, we need, as I said, for our most senior leaders to see the potential and value of AI for travel and tourism. We also need the infrastructure. In many places around the world, high-speed internet and the necessary data centers, which are basically the foundations of AI, are lacking and creating a significant gap between rich and poor in the AI economy between regions. We also, as I mentioned earlier, have a skills gap. We are committed here to advancing AI, and our sector needs significant investment to help build a workforce that is ready for this future. We also will need very clear, consistent regulations. And why is that? Because AI sometimes makes people nervous. And when you've got communities or customers or businesses that are nervous, we need very good, clear regulation from the governments that are sitting in this room. I just want to give you one good example of AI, which is one of our members, Hilton, and they brought in something called the Green Breakfast Initiative. It shows what's possible when the private sector embraces this technology. It used AI-powered waste management across 13 hotels in the UAE, and we have colleagues from the UAE here today, which is wonderful. And it actually reduced food waste by 62%. Now, can you imagine if a small practice like that became an industry standard? And if we could help smaller businesses adopt this too? Just think of the impact. And this isn't just smart business, it's our chance to help drive the sustainable change we all need by leveraging the technology we already have available. We cannot do it alone. To unlock AI's potential, we need public sector support, as I said, for the standards and the training, and we need intuitive policies, greater investment in infrastructure, and government incentives to help more businesses adopt AI. Your Excellencies, esteemed ministers, colleagues and honoured guests, the path forward is clear. We all play an important role. The public sector can create the right environment, and you can work with the private sector to implement practices and manage risks. By uniting our efforts, we can make our sector a global leader in innovation, growth and environmental responsibility. And I know that's what all of you sitting in this room are here to do. I really, really look forward to a fantastic discussion today. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I would now like to introduce Natalia Bayona from UN Tourism. Thank you, Natalia.
Your Excellencies, dear ministers, dear high-level representatives from the governments, dear colleagues from the European Parliament, dearest Julia, dearest Jonathan and Juliet from the WTM team, dear journalists, dear BBC, dear friends, dear Greece as premier partner of WTM. On behalf of the Secretary General Pololikashvili, who couldn't join us today, as he had to attend the United Nations Chief Executive Board in New York with His Excellency, the Secretary General Guterres, I want to give you a warm welcome to our ministerial summit. Julia, Jonathan, Juliet, I have to say that I'm really excited and happy today. The summit has been exponentially growing. We have more than 20 ministers today. For the first time, we have former ministers coming from Europe. For the first time, we have members of the European Parliament. And of course, for the first time, we don't have only one, we have two circles full of leaders. This means this trade show matters. This means that in consequence, working together, the public, the private, and of course, the international organizations is always the best scenario. That's why we decided to define the thematic of today's debate into artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence needs human intelligence to be bright. Today, if we see our data, we reached, as a sector, more than 790 million international tourists only in the 7 months of this current year. 11% of growth versus 2023, 96% of recovery. So the world, as Julia mentioned before, is facing challenges. We have natural disasters. In my hometown and in my beloved Spain, the home of UN tourism, we are having disasters there. As a purely Latin American, we have natural disasters there. And of course, we need to face it because tourism and confidence and trust and natural resources are together. And without that, it's impossible to make tourism survive. Geopolitics and the war. The United Nations stated and mentioned, identified more than 60 conflicts in the world. Remember the key words in tourism: confidence, trust, and security. Without confidence and trust, we cannot assure a sustainable tourism. And of course, we face over-tourism in the mature destinations and the lack of capacity to lead and to react. We need, as a sector, to be prepared for the present, to make better decisions with the help of generative artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not new. AI was created in 1950. In 1957, it flourished thanks to the power of connecting with the PC as a machine, bringing a solution to storage information in a cheaper, quick, and accessible way. That's innovation. When I was a kid, I have to say that the mobile of my father was this big, and it was really expensive to have the first PC. But that's not new, and the world is evolving so fast. And as you can see, innovation is my passion. I was appointed the first director of innovation of UN Tourism to create the department 6.5 years ago. Today, I'm the executive director, but I started on innovation. I firmly believe that the most human economic sector needs to be part and take a strong say in the digital global conversation. Why? And this is really important because, of course, I have to talk a little bit on tourism. As you know, tourism is about promotion. Tourism is about content. Tourism is powerful thanks to the magic of creating unique stories. And let me give you some quick examples of how I use artificial intelligence in my daily basis. The first one, I'm full of centennials in the team. And they told me one day, Natalia, you are always shy speaking in French. And you were taught French, you don't know Chinese, in 5 minutes we will fix it. They recorded my voice, used an application, they created a script, and I had, and this is true and you can find it in my social media, an avatar of Natalia speaking in 10 languages. That's a purely example that we did in less than half an hour. Second one, 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure to be in the World Economic Forum in Singapore with the young global leaders. And I experienced something that is called the digital public infrastructure. I had a digital twin, a Natalia in digital, with all the services of the country over there. That's incredible, not only from a government perspective, but also from the communications and tourism perspective. Because imagine if you have that in terms of mobility, in terms of the people that is coming to the country. So now you don't need to buy the data. The data is at the end of the day yours. Education, that is my other passion. I read that 75% of the students today are more enrolled with education and mathematics thanks to the power of being interactive on education using different technologies. And only 5% of the kids are enrolled on education if they are taught face-to-face. So at the end, tourism is here. And at the end of the day, artificial intelligence is a synonym of hyper-personalization. This will help tourism to personalize the way we give services. And today, in a sector that has 1.6 billion of people, we demand artificial intelligence to hyper-personalize every single trip that we do. So with this said, of course, we have challenges. We have the challenges of democratization of open data. We have, of course, the challenge of fake news, the rights. But at the end of the day, we need to keep together the principles of what I feel this will be good for everyone. Transparency, to become universal, security, ethics, and of course, supervision and control. So With this said, what's the role of UN Tourism? What is UN Tourism doing in artificial intelligence? First one, our role in multilateralism is our power to bring all of you together, to guide and to include tourism as part of the conversation. I'm honored to be part of the United Nations Innovation Network, to work with all the UN agencies to see how we react together on the challenges of AI. We work on the AI for Good group. We are sharing with the ITU, with the Telecom UN agency, with UN Tourism. We are co-sharing the Metaverse group to include tourism in the conversation. We are working on the UN Task Force on AI. Then when we go to the House, you can see a flyer that we brought today. We are working with our affiliate members department to join in the conversation the private sector. So on January 2025, we will launch our first report on artificial intelligence and guidelines for the governments, how governments need to react on artificial intelligence. And this, of course, has been done with the private sector, with Booking, Expedia, TripAdvisor, Saxion University from the Netherlands, JTB, among others. So at the end of the day, last but not least, we have education in our online academy, and thanks to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I see here our Deputy Minister Sultan, that he knows pretty well this. Minister Al-Khatib has been key as president of the Executive Council, and he gave us the mandate to reform the online academy. Since January, the online academy of UN Tourism will have specialized chatbots that will have artificial intelligence teachers so that people can study in their way. So we personalize the way people are educated in tourism. And we are working as well with WhatsApp to create courses through WhatsApp to train the hospitality sector that is not easy to bring them into the classroom. So just to end, I end with the project whom I started in this organization, that is the startup competition. So with all of these, I just want to leave you with a video with the project that we are launching today, together with the private sector, together with the ministers, to bring the startups from all around the world to see how we can create new technologies that are connected with artificial intelligence. So, Geeta, before you become the boss of this conversation, I just want, and before the video starts, I want to thank all of you, and of course, all of you, because really I'm happy to have you, all of you here. At the end of the conversation, you all are welcome, the ministers, deputy ministers, high-level delegates from the private sector, for the official photo that, of course, will make history of this amazing gathering today. So help me with the video, and thank you again. Geeta, officially, you're the boss. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalia, and thank you to you and Julia for those two fantastic speeches. Welcome, everyone. I'm Geeta Gurumuthy. I'm a BBC News presenter. The BBC is delighted, of course, to be involved with this event again. And I'm afraid the journalist in me must just point out I've had hardly any sleep because I have been watching the overnight results come in. In case you haven't seen it, Donald Trump has now crossed the threshold. So he has officially got the numbers he needs to be confirmed as the next US president. And I mention that because, of course, politics, natural disasters, so much shapes the way that people travel, as well as, of course, all our endless curiosity to explore new places. And to all of you involved in the travel industry, I should just say a huge thank you to all of us who are customers, because you all provide the joy in our lives, the moments of hope that we share with our families. And so getting it right is really, really important. We're going to have a discussion until about 12:30 with our very esteemed guests from the private sector and from many governments who have come here today. And it would be wonderful to keep this as much of a discussion as possible. If anybody wants to jump in on what somebody else has said, please just try and indicate that, because it would be lovely to have some free-flowing conversation where we can. And also a personal plea, please don't use too much jargon. I am not an AI expert, most people aren't. It's easy to fall into jargon, so let's just try and keep it as real as possible. And just finally, if you do need translation, there are headsets for any of the speakers who are not obviously speaking English, and those are the numbers you can just switch into to listen. So let me kick it off, and I'm going to come to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Sultan Al-Muslim if I can, because as one of the new leaders pioneering tourism and really promoting your country and visitors to come to Saudi, the question that we're trying to address today really is, what are the benefits of AI, what are the risks, and are governments and the private sector doing as much as they can, as quickly as they can, whilst putting in guardrails? How are we going to globally have guardrails that are configured together? There are so many challenges in all of that. But let me just start with you and ask you, as a country which has really changed the way that you are welcoming visitors, how much has AI been a part of your journey? How much is it embedded into what you're doing now?
Well, thank you, Geeta, for asking the question, and I'm honored to be part of this important conversation. And again, going back to the speeches that were presented by Julia and Natalia, I think AI sits at the heart of what we're trying to do right now. We admit that it is an exploratory phase. We're still figuring out how we can use it, but we have all agreed in the country that we have one principle, which is digitizing the necessary and humanizing the unnecessary. And digital aspect of tourism should be part of the journey, but it should not replace the journey. And the reason why we say this is that tourism is driven by people. And the reason why tourists fly from point A to point B is to have an authentic experience, to explore new cultures, to see things that they have not seen before. And having completely digitized journeys will not have that authentic effect. And I'll give an example. If you have a digitized hotel now, you won't be able to interact with the people who are serving coffee or serving tea or helping you with concierge services. Again, knowing the stories of people will leave an unforgettable experience. And I go back to Barbados, a beautiful island of Barbados. The thing that stuck with me the most is the fisherman Andrew, who took me on a 1-hour journey. We fished, and I still remember it for forever.
Yes, or so many of us, of course, would completely agree that it is the personal contact that is absolutely crucial. Can I just bring in the Philippines? Again, tourism is such a big part of your economy. Cristina Garcia Frasco, do you feel that the government is moving ahead with AI as fast as it needs to? How much of a priority is it for your industry?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And first, I would just like to express my gratitude to UN Tourism and the WTTC for always being at the forefront of tourism trends and giving opportunities to countries like the Philippines to learn, as well as to share its best practices. In our country, we articulated the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy as 2021, being one of only 50 countries in the world to do that. With this, our president in 2022 enunciated the necessity of the Philippines being open to inclusive technology. And with that, a roadmap 2.0 was rolled out in 2024 for the development of a Center for AI Research and Development that focuses on research and development in sustainable agriculture, disaster resilience, as well as urban planning. These three essential components of development of which will determine the success of tourism in the country. And so in the Department of Tourism, we have interpreted this national strategy in very specific ways. First, in our national accreditation standards, we introduced an additional component to our star rating program. And that is for accommodation establishments that introduce technology-driven innovations into their properties, they will get extra incentives for their star rating. And we have since seen positive developments in this regard through a report by our Philippine Hotel Owners Association that would see the private sector applying AI in their tourism enterprises. Very specific examples include the handling of customers by way of virtual assistants for random tasks, as well as the introduction of smart technologies in hotels. And it has even gone to the extent of introducing AI in the handling of food waste in certain food establishments.
And just a very simple pickup question, given what we heard from your Saudi colleague. That balance between human interaction in, for example, hotel check-ins or serving customers or even cleaning rooms and so on. I mean, where is the balance in your view of that for people visiting the Philippines? How do you manage that?
Well, the balance very much weighs heavily on the side of human interaction, especially that in the Philippines, tourism employs anywhere from 6 million to 9 million, according to the WTTC. And this is a great source of revenue for the Philippines, contributing over 8.6% to our GDP. And so we are very conscious to ensure that the human element of tourism is never lost in the Philippines, especially recognizing that Filipino hospitality is known worldwide and is the very best asset of Philippine tourism. Nonetheless, we have sought to introduce innovation in tourism programs, specifically under the Department of Tourism's Tourism Digitalization and Revenue Generation Office. We have launched the Hop On, Hop Off mobile application that is able to provide opportunities for tourists to get to know Metro Manila through our Hop On, Hop Off bus tours by way of a mobile application that also provides GPS tracking of the buses itself, as well as online booking platforms for these services. We've also launched our Tourist Assistance Call Center, as well as our Travel Philippines app, all of which utilize digital technology and AI for enhancing the overall tourism experience.
Thank you so much. That is fascinating to hear. Can I bring in Greece? I know you've just come into our circle here. Harry Theoharis, obviously crucially important for this conference and for your country, the whole tourism sector. Expertly done, in my experience, in so many places. Where is the balance for you in AI? And do you think governments are moving fast enough to embrace technology to upskill your workforce?
Yes. Thank you again for to the organizers for this kind invitation. Really, AI, we cannot understate the significance of the transformative power that we will see in the next few years. We have mentioned this balance, the core of your question. There's no doubt that the center of the experience is the human element, and this will never change. However, the cues are part of the experience as well. Now, if we can manage these flows better, of course, we can actually enhance the human element and remove the elements that actually destroy the experience. I will also mention a totally different area that we haven't touched upon yet. When we had COVID, it was really the keys to opening up were lost. We couldn't find ways to restart tourism. What, for example, Greece did is we used AI in our testing methodology in order to get the confidence in our governmental institutions to be able to open earlier rather than later. So we had very few tests at the time. Every country was scrambling for the test, and we were using AI to know whom to test at our borders as they came in, because we couldn't test everyone. So we wouldn't even have any tourism unless we were able to utilize those kind of tools. So sometimes AI is really the enabler that will allow us. And the final thing I would mention is, of course, the focus of the institutions are to the core countries, the tourism countries that get the tourists. But I feel that we will see a lot of changes in the landscape, in the workforce, in the way that business is conducted in the source countries, in the countries where the tourists originate. Because there you have the journey planning, you have the marketing activities, you have all those things that really AI will play a more and more significant role in the years ahead. So I think we will see many changes in the source countries, perhaps more changes rather than the destination countries.
And just briefly, if I could just ask you to move your microphone a little bit closer, and how will that affect either workflows or jobs or the overall patterns that affect you at the end?
Well, certainly it will affect workflows. And if I may, for a minute, add the political aspect. We just had the elections that you mentioned. We see in the European elections and in the US election, immigration, how big an issue it has become. And we see from our enterprises that finding the right people with the right skill set is increasingly very, very difficult. So I think AI and the upgrading of the skills and also understanding, because if you have a big country, especially countries where just understanding where the skill set is lacking and where we have too much of it, AI can even help with that. So even planning of the educational facilities, AI can play a big role in that as well.
Yes, let me bring in some of our private sector guests. And if I can bring in the HBX group and Nicholas has just explained for us how AI, well, first of all, what you do and how AI feeds into your work. And then we'll come on to the skills question.
Okay, so I mean, what we do, it's very simple. From the moment we as a traveler start booking until the moment we come back home, we provide everything from a B2B perspective. We do not sell directly to the traveler himself, but we enable travel through travel agencies, tour operators, airlines, etc. And as a company, we were discussing it. We use AI literally 24/7 every single day. I mean, think about it from a data accuracy perspective. We have between 5.6 and more than 6 billion searches every day. So AI help us understanding anomalies. If something is wrong in the price, in the booking data, for instance, we also use it to make sure that we can predict future better, helping for our hotels, as an example, to forecast what is about to happen in the coming future based on different events that we see all the time. We mentioned some of the unexpected events that can happen. And then finally, we use AI on a daily basis in operations. We have, for instance, as I think Natalia mentioned it, a chatbot. You know, we're headquartered in Palma, Mallorca, which is Spain and the Mediterranean part of Spain. So we had a vote between our employees to know how we would name the chatbots. And it's helping customers, travelers, and they very nicely came with the name of Olivia, which I think is a reference to another AI-enabled activity. And finally, what is very important to us, I think Sultan explained that very well earlier on, when something unexpected happens, this is where you need human oversight, if I may. And that's something that we have learned through the curve, which is let's make sure that I'll use the analogy again. We automatize the predictable. But when there is something that happened, like a strike, like a hurricane, or even a cancellation of a booking, then we put the right people in front of the traveler, because this is when they need us to bring them back on the rails of their experience.
And do you think that governments are coordinated enough in terms of AI regulations, data protection, cybersecurity in all the regions that you operate? Because there are some huge questions, aren't there, about privacy already with us and certainly coming down the track.
Well, you know, we always ask governments to be one step ahead, but at the same time, getting coordinated is not always the easiest. So if I look at it from a private sector, I think we're in this together. And I see governments helping us, getting the right level of control, playing by the rules, because think about tourism. It's such an interconnected industry that we're as weak as the weakest of the elements that we have. And we might get to that. AI, it's not cheap. It's expensive. You need the right people, you need the right scale, you need the right platforms, so you need the right experience. So I think that's where we can do much more together.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Let me bring in our colleagues from Zimbabwe, if I can. Barbara Rodzi, and let me ask you, how much is AI, is technology a factor in your workforce and in your tourism industry?
Okay, thank you very much. So for Zimbabwe, our cornerstone for our tourism is heritage-based. So like my colleague from Saudi Arabia, we want to use AI where it's necessary, and where it's not very necessary, we go human, so that the experience between our tourists and the people remains in place, because part of it is our culture, a lot of our culture. However, we have our cornerstone as well for sales or for the market is wildlife. So I can imagine how we can use AI in wildlife as people come in and having AI helping in tour guiding. Very, very key, which we align together with what Natalia has referred to within the education system, where tour guides are being educated. We think it's very key. But in this whole spectrum or scheme of things, I think what is more important is the legal infrastructure, putting it into place, making it legal for private sector, that is coming from the government. What he has just mentioned, that the government has to be always a step ahead. So in our country, we are restructuring our policy to make sure or to ensure that it becomes law to be aligned with AI to help our tourists. But as well, we have also started by even the entrance into the destination, efficiency as people enter in our country. I think it's something that we can do that has not much interaction with the person, but hospitality is more in where the tourist is going to have their ultimate experience about their touring the country. So these are some of the things that we are considering very seriously. And I'm happy and thank the other countries that are ahead. And as a strategy, we also want to be a best-in-class practice following those who are ahead of us as a country. Thank you.
And how much of a challenge is it to go as fast as you need to? Is it about funds for developing AI, for training your tour guides, for having the skills in the workforce?
Okay, so reskilling and retooling our people is very important. The most of the challenge is culture, where people are used to doing these things manually, or to speak and to have human interaction with tourists. How do we train them? So education system is very, very key at a level where people go to train about tour guiding. So I want to thank UN Tourism for the program that we are just starting probably in the beginning of the year for tour guiding vocational training centers. We start right there because the challenge is the education system, that we have to educate our people from the beginning. How innovative is very key, and the framework from the beginning going onwards to the actual end user.
Thank you very much indeed. Let me turn to your colleague from Sierra Leone, Nabila Frida Kuruma, Tunis. How far are you integrating AI? And, is there... there are obviously wealth and skills gaps all over the world. How much of that is that a challenge, or how much, is it overblown?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to have this discussion, which is really critical in terms of us advancing our tourism potential as a country. You may know that Sierra Leone is an emerging destination. And one thing that we have anchored our programs and plans on is His Excellency the President has been very keen, to incorporate innovation and technology. And he has formed, a Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, and has upscaled that into a Ministry of Communication, Technology and Innovation. So within the tourism landscape, we have realized that at being a critical enabler to the Big Five, which also includes innovation, we realize that having AI does assist us given the experience. We do not want to replace AI for the authenticity that we offer in Sierra Leone. So for us, we had a regional congress a couple of days ago, And the theme was beyond empowerment to education, innovation, and finance access. And one thing we did was to bring these women, from the rural areas into Freetown to basically understand, their creative talent. Because one thing we have realized in Sierra Leone, we do have a young population brimming with a lot of creativity. And how could we get innovation and AI assisted tools to support them? So things like giving them access to digital markets was one of the issues that we did discuss. The challenges that we do have is also incorporating, these different education schemes within the rural areas, because again, the human experience for us is what really sells, basically. And I think
How long does it take, though, to put the education in and then see it in your employable people that you need? Is it quite quick? Or?
Well, what we've started within the Ministry of Technical and Higher Education is to incorporate AI-assisted skills, basically for this particular set of group of people who are within the creative industry in Sierra Leone. And it's still an emerging area. It's still ongoing. Aside from having these different approaches within the governance structure, we're also looking at how could we bring in these women from rural areas to the center and ensure that they do have access to digital markets to be able to showcase what they're producing. And that is a critical aspect of our own tourism offerings. Within like with what we do with one of our prime destination spots, Takugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary, we're entering into a partnership with them to also see how we could use AI assisted tools to support conservation efforts, because Sierra Leone is going very deeply into sustainable and regenerative tourism. And next year, we're going to have a very strong focus on how we can have, the requisite support from the technology aspect to upscale what we're doing, because again, we see that there's a lot of precision within, the AI space, but again, we do not want to replace that for what we actually have in giving our visitors a real and authentic experience.
And we might come back to this, but I mean, how much do you worry about then the climate costs of AI? So everything we hear on the flip side about, energy costs of data storage. Even we had a piece actually on the news last week about the e-waste, just the devices that are disposed of. I mean, how much do we all have to think about that? Is that a focus for your government at all?
I believe that it is something that we all need to think about critically. But again, when you look at the trend that's taking place, there's no way you can stay behind. You just have to find ways. And these conversations would help us understand, because again, it's about looking at the disparities within the space that is being offered right now. There are countries that are really way behind. There are other countries that are ahead. So I feel the conversation needs to be more balanced to see how, supportive mechanisms can be incorporated to ensure that everyone is on board. But one thing that we do have to realize is that AI is here, and we just have to find ways to plug into it in the best way possible.
Thank you so much. We will we'll come back to that question, I think, about how to support different nations. Let me turn to Peru, if I can, and Ursula Desilu-Leon Champon. Apologies if I'm getting all these pronunciations slightly wrong. But would you be able to tell us how much of a priority AI is for your tourism industry? How is it changing your industry?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. In Peru, we are already hastening artificial intelligence in our tourism infrastructure, focusing on optimizing visitor management and boosting operational efficiency. For instance, we are integrating a cutting-edge technology to enrich the visitor experience and enhance accessibility in ongoing museum projects. At the House of the Capitulations in Quinoa, we've introduced virtual reality viewers and the Railway Museum of Tacna. Visitors can interact with dynamic context through QR codes, video walls, and immersive video pads. This modern approach is a core component of new tourism infrastructure in Peru. Looking ahead, we are excited to implement even more innovative resources, including holograms, augmented reality, and magnetic loops, especially designed to support hearing-impaired visitors. These advancements underscores our commitment to creating a more inclusive and engaging experience for all who visit Peru. These efforts are not only designed to elevate the visitor's experience, but also to support the conservation of our precious natural and cultural resources. This is very important for us. By leveraging artificial intelligence, we can better understand and respond to the dynamic demands of our tourism landscapes, making it more resilient and sustainable. However, as with any transformative technology, the integration of artificial intelligence brings challenges. It is crucial to ensure that these advances remain inclusive, equitable, and accessible, so they don't widen digital divides on marginalized local communities. Additionally, we must be proactive in addressing ethical considerations, particularly around privacy and data use, by establishing robust regulatory frameworks to protect the rights of all stakeholders involved. And also holds immense potential as an ally in combating climate change and advancing the sustainable development goals. Through advanced data analysis, our EA allows us to monitor and manage the environmental impacts of tourism with unprecedented precision, fostering more responsible and sustainable practice. In Peru, for instance, we are utilizing artificial intelligence to oversee delicate ecosystems and management visitor capacity in protected areas, ensuring that tourism enrich rather than threatens our invaluable natural resource.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic. And to your colleague from Mexico, thank you so much also for being with us. Just tell us how much AI is changing your industry at the moment. What are the priorities there? Josefina Rodriguez Zamora.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to speak in Spanish.
So, yeah, you can all join our headsets. Thank you.
Muy buenos días a todos. Gracias por la invitación. México es el 6º país más visitado del mundo, pero lo más importante es que es el 2º con mayor patrimonio cultural. Eso hace que la innovación y la inteligencia artificial la hemos llevado a nuestros pueblos indígenas, a los pueblos originarios de nuestra verdadera cultura, que son los protagonistas de nuestra historia. Tenemos ya pueblos pues con una gran innovación inteligentes, como es Tequila, Jalisco, como es Querétaro, como son incluso la parte del norte, y eso ha permitido el poder crecer la cadena del sector, en donde los agentes especiales es la población, desde el hotel, la cocinera tradicional, el guía turístico, el campesino, nos muestra su lugar, pero ya podemos hacer reservaciones en línea en un catálogo oficial y tenemos 177 pueblos mágicos. Entonces, creo que la innovación y la inteligencia artificial en México la estamos impulsando para disminuir la brecha social, la desigualdad y sobre todo en donde cada persona tiene algo que contar y una historia que contar de su pueblo. Entonces, por eso que este catálogo y esta plataforma de México permite que todos los agentes artesanos puedan vender su artesanía a todo el mundo, puedan expresar su cultura y Eso es, creo que el equilibrio de la innovación y de la tecnología. Y no solo innovar los productos ancla que tenemos en cada uno de nuestros países, sino llevarlo a cada uno de los rincones, que cada uno tiene algo que contar y una historia que permite que el país sea diferente y único. Muchas gracias.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I was just listening to the end of that. That's fantastic. Can I turn to Egypt also now, Sharif Fati? And this question about control, privacy and control of data, a number of people have said that that is something that they are concerned about, that they're wanting to implement. Are you legislating for that? How do all your governments legislate for any breach of privacy for customers? Speaking as a customer who constantly thinks about how much I'm tapping in and giving away.
Thank you very much. I think you started touching the main concerns or touching the real challenges that we have with the AI implementation. First one of them is dependency, in my opinion, and I can give you a very recent example. When I asked my team to write me something about AI for this forum, they simply went and asked AI about the issues related to AI and sent me something. So I did the same myself in order to check whether they have done it or not, and I found out that the information they got me was from AI. This kind of dependency need to be controlled in a way or another. Second challenge, in my opinion, is, or actually two challenges with the regulatory framework or how to develop a legal framework. The first one is AI is very much driven by machine learning, and when the machine learns, it develops very quickly. So there is no room for stagnant regulations, which is not easy to do because regulatory authorities hate this. They hate when they are forced to change the regulations consistently and based on a machine that is dictating the rules of the game. That's one. Number two, if you want to even do it and try to make the laws and the regulations and the governance constantly changing, you would need experts, you would need technicians in the legal team in order to be able to monitor the developments of AI, which is impossible, and keep changing the regulations accordingly or consequently. Third thing, do we develop international or local? Because we have international regulations and we have local regulations. We have, how do you call it, cultural differences and all these kind of challenges with AI. So in my opinion, if we want to use AI, or actually, if we want, we cannot avoid using AI. We used it ourselves in marketing campaigns. We are using it now in museums and in enhancing the customer experience in archaeological sites. However, we need to have more control, and the control has to be done through strong and firm code of conduct. The control has to be done by defining where the machine should stop in order to allow us to monitor what's happening. And it also has to be done through triggers. We need to know when and how the machine had crossed the line. When they cross the line, we need to interfere, and we need a trigger for us to understand this.
And I mean, if we look at the slightly different political trajectories, just, you know, if Elon Musk is about to become an even bigger political player in the US, what that means for regulation or lack of regulation from the US. We see the EU going down a more legislated framework. The logic is that we need global rules and globally agreed paths. Is that possible in your view?
In my opinion, you can have global guidelines, but when you want to do it as or transform it to regulations, it has to be done locally. So we need to use these global rules as a reference, but every country has to have its flavor and what suits its culture and also how the business is conducted in the country itself.
Can you give me an example of how it could differ?
For example, in our part of the world, there are certain cultural differences that need to be observed. So if we just apply the international rules, then we are missing something and we are not aligned with the community expectations from tourism. That's one. Two, the speed of, how do you call it, looking at cases related to technology. in maybe other parts of the world, they can quickly convene and take a decision and stop something. But in some other countries, and my country is one of them, maybe this cannot be done quickly. And then the malpractice can continue for some time until we take or get our act together in order to respond to it. Many examples, actually, I can think of.
And obviously, the tourism AI development is not isolated, is it? Because it's linked to every other industry in which AI is developing. And there's a lack of understanding from journalists, from politicians, from policymakers, because unless you are technically very expert, you probably don't understand the ramifications. And therefore, it's quite frightening, isn't it, to think, how does the speed of change get synchronized across all the people who want to try and understand it?
That's why it's all about control and defining where it stops.
Yeah.
And then when to interfere thereafter. It's all about defining that.
Please, yeah, sir.
If I may jump in, I think, as His Excellency mentioned, that we can't avoid adopting AI. And I think as governments, we need to look at it from three circles. There is circle of control, and there's circle of influence, and there's circle of acceptance.
Yeah.
And when we define that circle of control, and as a matter of fact, AI is cross-cutting, as you just said. Tourism, as a matter of fact, is also cross-cutting. It gets into trade, it gets into culture, it gets into F&B, entertainment, and many other sectors. And UN Tourism defines, I think, how many subsectors? About 100, you say? So 100 subsectors. And I think having that balance, and AI is not the first revolution that we go through.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone through many revolutions before, and we have proven as peoples that we agree on the right way forward. And I'm optimistic about it, and I think we all should be optimistic. There are elements that we need to accept and move forward with it and adapt as we go. But again, convening such meetings, getting together, talking about it, addressing the elephant in the room, and making sure that, again, we go back to that human element. And I'll speak to Her Excellency Minister of Sierra Leone, what she said. The local communities. AI brings access. AI brings scale. And we speak about women in south of Saudi that would have never been able to have that German or Korean tourists coming to her house without having that access to the digital market. So I think that local community element is necessary. Without AI, we cannot have them be part of the evolution of tourism moving forward.
Thank you, sir. I'm just going to bring in our European guests in a moment. Just first of all, Natalia, this concept of how much individual responsibility governments are going to have versus a more coordinated approach. Where do you sit on that?
We have a lot to do as a UN organization. As I mentioned before, what's the role of UN tourism? From a multilateral perspective, today we are part of the conversation in the UN. As well, what I have faced is that, normally speaking, people think that AI is only powerful when it comes to telecoms and regulation. But that's not absolutely true. What we see is that tourism has a lot to say in those discussions to regulate AI. I give you a couple of examples. I was in Amazon in Singapore again with the young global leaders in WEF, and they told us about the satellites that they want to include all around the world to give access to rural destinations. And my first question was, what's about the security, the borders? That's from a Minister of Foreign Affairs task. The telecoms, of course, because you need a speed, Wi-Fi to bring technology to towns. But then if you want the most human economic sector to add value jobs, how we are connecting all of these, because at the end, AI, in the case of transportation, is in the airlines to support the high-level professionals. But what we need in the sector is to scale the way people are educated, in the way people access to technology, so that SMEs, that is the backbone of this sector, can use it and can massify the experiences of the humans that are coming as part of the sector. So the roadmap is clear. We will start in January with all of you. We have our executive council in my hometown, Colombia, in 2 weeks, where the idea is to set the framework of what I said, the 4 points, research, education, technology, and that the ministers guide us on the way they see we as a UN organization can help them, can guide them, and of course can recommend these tipping points that are helping to get AI accessible to all.
Thank you. Tonci Glavina from Croatia. The EU is bringing in regulation. There's obviously a lot of worry down the track across all sectors that AI is going to replace jobs. How much is your government promoting AI? How much are you worried about it?
Good day, everyone. It's great to see everybody here. Thank you for this great invitation. And you know what? We can go so many different directions with this thing. And I'm thinking now, listening to everybody, it's we are in year 2024. We're in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, and we're talking about AI, which is so big and almost hard to comprehend. But at the same time, it's great, by the way, to see such a great turnout at WTM this year and so many people. And you know what I noticed when I came in here? I noticed a lot of people, apparently a lot more people than last year, but I haven't noticed any robots walking around. Also, you know, we're in the year 2024, but most of us still have these paper tags. We can't get in without them. You know, we just kind of shows the complexity of the topic and such a wide contrast of everything that's going on here. And you know, we're here representing many different countries, many different tourism unique destinations, but at the same time, I'm very convinced that AI in many ways can be applied significantly different in each country, and for all of us to be right, for all of us to be exactly what we need. And I think it's going to be hard for us to agree on one model. It's going to be hard for us to agree. You know, I kind of see it as like a big dartboard over here on the wall, and there you're shooting dart, but the dartboard is big as this whole wall. So everywhere you hit something. But the question is, did you hit the high score or not? What I'm trying to say with this is, obviously, depending on how fast we adopted into our legislation, depending on how fast we adopted in our business processes, how we adopted in our destinations, really is going to depend on a variety of factors. And I would agree. I think Harry mentioned it earlier. Not necessarily how we adopted in our own country, in our destinations, but how our major markets adopted. So, for example, on Croatia's side, let me give you like a brief idea of what we're doing. We have really used the digitalization process and reform and digitalization to make a big step forward. Way back when, in 2016, sounds like ages ago, we introduced this e-visitor system, which is still one of the most advanced digital tools for creating tourism policy, because we have a real-time process. We record every single arrival in the country from exact demographic groups from each destination, each location, exactly type of accommodation they're staying in. For example, I have a report now from this morning in which I have every single guest in Croatia, where it is, and what they belong to. Even we even have tourism products listed there, and things like that, meaning that it's much easier to make strong policy decisions based on real, concrete, and very specific and exact data. As a famous American economist and scientist, Edward Deming, said, without data, you're just another person with an opinion, right? So why I'm saying this? I'm saying this because I believe in order to use AI properly, we're going to need to have some very, very exact, specific, strong data. Because if we don't, then it can go we can go in the wrong direction. It can go, it can get out of hand. And I think, and this, I hate myself for saying this because I do come from a private sector, but I believe that we're going to have a lot more regulations.
Yeah.
You know, in regards to this, because
well, just what you said is amazing, but also slightly concerning, obviously.
Yes.
Because that data can be used in all sorts of malicious
And let me
ways.
give you an
And
example.
how on earth do you stop that given government,
Right. I think
Politics.
that's the actual real question. This is the topic at hand here. Because, for example, now I think we all have similar problems around the world, around the destinations in terms of, for example, young people, how they get their information today, where they get their news from, where they get their source of information or things they do. I mean, the fact is, due to development of social networks and everything like that, and since children at a very small age are using these tools, they're not really watching news anymore. They're not really reading newspapers anymore.
Don't say that.
Yeah, right.
You're not allowed to say that.
It's scary.
Not here.
It's scary, but at the same time, what I think is going to happen at some point, we're going to have to introduce regulating age for access to certain technology, for certain applications that right now is available for anybody who can see and get an iPhone or whatever phone and browse through. So I think, and then we're going to make a full circle. Obviously, something is going to really develop, is going to become very, very widely accepted and used, but then it's going to cause a lot of problems, so we're going to have to regulate it. For example, same you asked in your introduction on European level, it's been decades since this really strong digitalization process and platforms who have really positively transformed our tourism in many ways, but just now we're introducing directive of short-term rentals and things like that, really way behind the 8 ball, and I think this is going to happen something with the AI, unless we maybe really talk about it now and try to find a ways to regulate it now. And for example, for us, I'm just going to finish with this, where we're going to use AI in the most significant way, sense of form, is going to be to control destinations and to really control and affect sustainability. And I believe if we use it just for that particular purpose, for nothing else, we're going to make a tremendous benefit and increase in the whole tourism experience.
Thank you so much. Sorry to interrupt. Yuri Torres from Andorra. Yuri. The question of regulation for the EU is very pertinent. Just tell us more about whether you're in favor of that, or do you think it's going to be restrictive?
Lo haré en castellano. O sea, así no voy a dejar solo a mi compañera de México. Yo creo que es interesante y además me podré expresar, yo creo, con más facilidad. Ser de los últimos a intervenir puede parecer a veces que todo se ha dicho, y es verdad que se ha dicho mucha cosa de la inteligencia artificial. Primero de todo, yo creo que es muy importante dar las gracias a la intervención de Julia y Natalia del principio y a la organización de este evento tan importante, y poner un poco de relieve cuál es la preocupación de un pequeño territorio como el nuestro, que es Andorra. Andorra, como bien saben la mayoría de ustedes, es un territorio de montaña muy pequeñito y muy vulnerable también al cambio climático, pero más del 50% de nuestro GDP depende del turismo, o sea que somos en este aspecto muy vulnerables a que puedan haber cambios importantes. Y desde el gobierno se ha creado una Data Intelligence Agency que nos permite pues analizar los datos. No obstante, y como hemos tenido en los últimos años, tenemos una compañía pública de telecomunicaciones que ya nos proporcionaba los datos, y con acuerdos con el MIT de Boston habíamos trabajado en temas de inteligencia ya muy precoz artificial para poder predecir las circulaciones de los turistas en nuestro territorio, y predecíamos si una persona que visitaba Andorra, por ejemplo, era de un destino pues anglosajón, tenía unos comportamientos diferentes de una persona que podía venir, por ejemplo, de España o de Francia. Y sabiendo también si utilizaba un Android o un iOS Model, también sabíamos que actuaba de manera diferente. Esto fue un poquito un preámbulo de lo que nosotros teníamos. Y ahora, integrando la inteligencia artificial, nos va a permitir optimizar mucho más y, sobre todo, tener en cuenta que la protección del territorio para nosotros es fundamental para tenerlo. Y ahora estamos haciendo unos estudios de capacidad de carga del sector turístico que son muy importantes para nosotros para poder justamente con la inteligencia artificial dirigir a los turistas a un sector o a un otro para no condicionar un poquito el reto del medio ambiente y para no perjudicarlo, porque para nosotros yo creo que es muy importante. Y además podemos anticipar los flujos de turistas teniendo en cuenta las diferentes épocas del año. Nosotros en este caso somos muy vulnerables al cambio climático. Tenemos nuestra parte importante de actividad es en invierno, donde tenemos unas estaciones de esquí que nos traen muchísimos turistas. Al año tenemos más de 9 millones de turistas que nos visitan. Somos 80.000 habitantes. Es decir, esto nos ha de permitir que puedan convivir bien la población local, que pueda convivir con los turistas que vienen y que no genere tensiones. Y todos estos elementos nosotros entendemos que a través de la inteligencia artificial, pero es un poquito como antes. Al final, la información, ¿qué se decía de la información? El que tiene información tiene poder. Ahora con la inteligencia artificial mucha gente tendrá información. Entonces se tendrá que ir un paso más allá para poder ser... al final la competencia la vamos a hacer todos, haremos competencia sana, yo digamos, entre muchos de los países pues que estamos aquí para atraer más visitantes y tenemos que ser capaces de utilizar esa inteligencia artificial con inteligencia humana. Y aquí me quedo un poquito.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed. Let me bring in the JTB, Ejiro Yamakita. Obviously, technology a key part of what you do. How fast is change happening, and what do you want to see from the ministers here?
Thank you. After listening to all the remarks from the ministers, I'm more encouraged to utilize the AI because there is such a big backup of the regulation and the solution for that. But from the private sector point of view, I would like to mention some practical usage of the AI technology already implemented in many companies already. I think the AI could be utilized in every corner of our business. As a tour operator, we are facing with the FIT customers, individual ones and group travel. So from the point of the pre-trip and the on the trip and after trip, there are a lot of things to do. On the pre-trip stage recommendation, everybody is already talking about this, how to adapt to the personalized demand. And the recommendation is obviously the important part, so that people can feel that they are traveling in the future for select destination they are going. So the recommendation is very important, but what is more important is the collaboration with the destination. So what we do is the utilizing our data and at the same time the data from the destination management organization, local government, combine that to match the needs and destination contents and the attractiveness. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is as we have more than 2,000 travel consultants all over the world, who's got the tremendous knowledge and the, of course, experience to convince the customer to travel. And it is very important when people select a destination, such a consultation is very important. But what we're trying to do is to use AI and set up, implement the algorithm, the brain of such an excellent travel consultant into the algorithm and copy that to other part so that the such a consultation scale. But at the end of the day, human resource, human touch service is necessary, but the process of the consultation is much efficient. This is the other part. And lastly, at the destination, which is more important for us, how people can experience better at the destination. One thing is the solution to the suppliers, hotel, restaurant, guide, coaches, so that they are all suffering from staff shortage matters when the demand is recovered, and for them to make the communication with the global traveler possible. It is not easy for all of them to employ the multi-language speaking staff. But we provide the AI translation system to all hotels so that people can communicate with the staff, like a French speaking, the chat and speak to the system, and the the staff speaking Japanese can communicate automatically. No stress. And this is already realized, and this is solving such a problem of staff shortage. And last example is the contributing to sustainability to optimize the local operation, utilizing AI to forecast the exact number of people coming into that destination, and plan the coach arrangement, restaurant arrangement precisely, so that there's no loss of the transportation, and the food loss is avoided. So this is one of the part we can utilize AI.
It's fascinating, isn't it, to see the different uses. Julia, as I keep saying to all of you, the more I find out, the more I also just feel alarmed about how much information is being gathered about all of us individually. And there is this balance, obviously, between ultimately the staff shortages in tourism, the economic benefit of companies eventually employing, robots instead of humans, all of that. There's so much change. Is it inevitable, do you think, that different countries will go down different paths at different speeds? I know that's not necessarily what the industry would like.
No, I don't think so, actually. I think AI is empowering people. I mean, first thing what I want to say is, like any industrial revolution, at the minute, we're right at the beginning of it. It's not even that, as we were saying, it was happened a while ago. It's like we've had pilotless planes for 40 years, but no one wants to use them, okay? So, and in fact, they're safer, and that is the reality. Unless there's a big problem, and then they're not. So yeah, so it's interesting. But I think like any big industrial revolution, and when you're at the beginning, we're feeling very bewildered, but also it's very, very contradictory. So I was just picking up some of the comments here that you have a potential for a real divide between the AI poor and developed countries that might be able to use it much faster. At the same time, we're hearing stories how AI is actually empowering some of the poorest people in our communities and bringing in travel and tourism, as Sultan was saying, His Excellency was saying, bringing women in the south of Saudi Arabia who would have been completely excluded from this sort of tourism environment into the sector. So you've got a contradiction there. The other contradiction is it is one of the most gas guzzling, as you said, industries in the world. IT now contributes a lot to more greenhouse gas emissions than aviation does. But because you can't kind of see it and feel it, and it doesn't fly the air with the contrail. So, that is the reality. But at the same time, we're hearing, from our colleagues in the Philippines and in Peru that we're actually using, and Sierra Leone, that we're using AI to help conserve our planet, yes, to actually monitor species and plants and fauna, and to actually come up with techniques that cut down on climate change. So it's a massive contradiction. And I think the key point that was said by His Excellency in Greece and also in Egypt is about how we regulate it. How are we going to regulate this thing? And I actually think it's going to learn a lot faster. We say governments are clumsy, right? And I'm saying that not from the private sector. I used to work in government. We're slow. It takes us a long time to get our act together on anything. We can't beat this machine. So I think you actually need to build the regulation into the AI so that the AI actually ends up controlling itself with, as our Excellency from Egypt said, triggers.
Thank you, Julia. We've got, I think, just under half an hour left, but let me bring in our Peruvian minister again.
Yes, thank you so much. I think it's clear that for maximizing the benefits of artificial intelligence in tourism demands a strong collaboration between the public and private sectors. To that end, we are actively building strategic partnerships with technology companies and academic institutions. Together, we are co-creating innovative solutions to elevate to the tourism experience while firmly prioritizing sustainability. One exciting example in a recent initiative by researchers at the University of Texas in Austin, using artificial intelligence, they analyzed thousands of tourism photos taken at Machu Picchu and surrounding sites. This analysis revealed valuable insights into how visitors move through the area, where congestions occurs, and which spots attract the most attention. Now, regional authorities are leveraging these findings to better manage visitor flow, reducing bottlenecks and enhancing the overall experience. This data-driven approach not only supports Machu Picchu as a sustainable destination, but also aligns with its net zero certification goals, ensuring that its cultural and natural heritage is preserved for future generations. Such collaboration highlight the potential of artificial intelligence to drive sustainable tourism solutions that are both innovative and impactful. They allow us to tap into the expertise of diverse stakeholders, ensuring that all driven solutions are not only impactful, but also scalable and inclusive across the tourism sector.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let me just bring in the EU. Thank you for sitting in. We've lost our Greece representative. But Nikolina Brynjak, I wanted to ask really about the regulation that the EU is bringing in. How far is it going to change things?
First of all, thank you for WTTC and UN Tourism, Natalia and Julia, for inviting me here to speak in front of European Parliament and Tourism Task Force from Committee of Sustainable Transport and Tourism. So the Act on Artificial Intelligence was adopted. This is the first horizontally regulated Artificial Intelligence Act in the European Union. And it is in force since August this year. And all of the bylaws are going to be very soon implemented. So this and ready for the operationalization for all the member states. So it means that, and I was listening carefully for all of the ministers sitting here today. So it means that we have the solution in the European Union. We think that it is important. Why for this act to be implemented? Because it is the objective of this act is to have ethical standards of artificial intelligence and responsible standards for the usage of artificial intelligence. So it means that if we want to use artificial intelligence, it has to be safe, it has to be secure, it has to be transparent, it has to be traceable, it has to be protecting fundamental rights, it has to be environmentally friendly. So with all of these parameters in mind, we have to be secure of the risks of the artificial intelligence. So we have in this act low risks of artificial intelligence, medium risk and high risks. So if we have high risks, then it can mean restrictions of our usage of artificial intelligence, because a lot of ministers have mentioned situation about information and data and source. Without of the data, you don't have anything, especially in the tourism sector. So when you have, but you have to worry about the source of the data. If the source of the data is incorrect, and this is the reason why with this act you have to have the artificial intelligence has to be overseen by the people. This is the necessity. So we, as the European Union, and the political guidance of President of the European Commission, she pointed out that she wants the European Union and Europe to be a global leader in 5 years in artificial intelligence innovations. So we are going, and also she announced data revolution, and this means the data revolution for all of the businesses in European Union, in Europe, to share the data and innovations also. So we are going to be investing a lot of finances into innovations, into investments in artificial intelligence.
Thank you so much. Bring in some of our guests from just on the slightly outer circle here. From Uzbekistan, we have Umid Shidiev, please. Do you have a microphone? You don't? Okay. Just getting you one right now. Thank you so much.
Is it on? Yeah,
Yes,
thank you
great.
very
Thank
much.
you.
First of all, I would like to express my appreciation to UN Tourism, WTTC, and all the participants here. As you know, Uzbekistan is a new emerging tourism destination, and we're not so-called victims of the mass tourism yet, and artificial intelligence is something new that is coming to the country. As of now, the usage of the AI has been limited to marketing campaigns, as other colleagues have mentioned it here. And we want to consider artificial intelligence as an extra help for our tourism sector, and something that will not replace the work force for the so many people that are working in the tourism industry. I will explain why. The tourism sector was opened up in the country just in 2017. Back then, we only had 2 million tourists per year that would visit Uzbekistan, and today this number is some 8 million people. That's why we are trying to diversify our economy and to involve as many people in the tourism industry as possible. And in this regard, we try to give the tailored experience for each tourist that visits our country. I'm sure a lot of colleagues here have visited Uzbekistan exactly a year ago when we hosted the 25th session of the UN Tourism General Assembly, and it was quite an event, and we were really happy to have this event. And just at the same time, we understand that AI is already here, and exactly this month, our president, he signed a decree according to which we will try to implement the AI into our tourism sector, and Uzbekistan is determined to utilize AI for the benefit of our country as a driver of economic growth. AI-driven software products and services will reach a market value of 1.5 billion, and nationwide we're establishing 10 scientific laboratories dedicated to AI research and development, and launching high-performance computing servers to support them. One of these institutions, we're proud to say that it will be the UN Tourism Academy that was launched exactly a year ago in Samarkand. So these are the things that we're doing in Central Asia.
Thank you so much, and thank you also for battling the lively noise from outside. I don't know what's going on. It sounds fun, but thank you so much. Let me go to Colombia if we have Juan Manrique Camargo. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll do it in Spanish. Bueno, primero quiero agradecer a todos ustedes por la invitación. Sin duda, estos espacios son muy valiosos para nosotros, aportar nuestra experiencia y a su vez recoger todas las mejores prácticas a nivel mundial en cuanto a la implementación de la inteligencia artificial en el contexto del turismo. En nuestro país estamos trabajando en varios puntos en la interacción de las herramientas de inteligencia artificial para mejorar el turismo. Tenemos un plan sectorial de turismo que está alineado con la Política Nacional de Transformación Digital. Esto es un plan del gobierno en general, no solamente en el sector turismo, sino a nivel de todos los sectores económicos para implementar herramientas de inteligencia artificial. Y puntualmente en el sector turismo y en este plan sectorial tenemos la implementación de sistemas de análisis predictivo que permitirán gestionar el flujo de turistas que llegan a sitios turísticos populares y buscan optimizar la carga de estos sitios en temporadas altas de alto flujo de visitantes. Tenemos un sistema de información turística, se llama Por Tu Colombia, donde se almacenan las principales estadísticas del sector y queremos darle un vuelco y una mejora a este sistema de información implementando una estrategia de innovación y transformación sectorial, lo cual permitirá recoger las estadísticas en tiempo real, usarlas para la formulación de política pública en turismo y mejorar la experiencia tanto de operadores turísticos como de los turistas que llegan a nuestro país. Estamos implementando una estrategia de destinos turísticos inteligentes en ciudades, en este momento en ciudades principales del país, como lo son Bogotá, Medellín, Cali y Bucaramanga, para lograr el monitoreo y la administración del flujo de turistas en estas ciudades. De igual manera, desde el viceministerio, en conjunto con el sector privado, estamos trabajando en un asistente virtual de asistencia al viajero que se basa en inteligencia artificial del mismo modo y integrando varias herramientas de información, las cuales tenemos que explotar mejor como país y aprovecharlas, como son los registros administrativos de operadores turísticos, las guías que se utilizan en las diferentes ciudades sobre los destinos, donde se encuentra el inventario de atractivos turísticos e integrar todas esas herramientas de información que hoy probablemente se encuentran algo dispersas con herramientas de inteligencia artificial para que interactúen entre ellas. Finalmente, quisiera referirme a la sostenibilidad y preservación cultural. Esto es la conexión con este tema y la inteligencia artificial es muy importante. Queremos implementar modelos de aprendizaje automático que anticipen la demanda turística y que permitan que estas actividades turísticas sean ejercidas con responsabilidad ambiental, con respeto por el medio ambiente, por las culturas, por los pueblos y que sea realizada con criterios de sostenibilidad.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed. Some key points being made there. Let me bring in some of our private sector guests as well as we move towards the close of this session. I think from Expedia we've got Jean-Philippe Monod de Fraudelli. Is that correct? Yes. Wonderful. Hi. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hopefully we're just getting a microphone to you and then we'll bring in Sita as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, I mean, I guess we've heard a lot in the last hour or so from a lot of governments, from some of your private sector colleagues, technology moving ridiculously fast. We've heard, we all know about personalized itineraries versus the data protection hazards. From what you're hearing today, do you think governments are moving along the right track? What more do you want from them?
So thank you WTTC and UN Tourism for convening this this important dialogue. I think so. If you look at what the projects that we have, I'm just going to quickly mention them. So we have a tool that allows travelers to work together. For example, family members to all connect in the same platform and to plan their trip. I think increasingly this tool would be also used to help steer certain streams of tourism to certain areas that are less visited. And this is where we can help on the sustainability side. These are all tools that are, let's say, less impactful when it is comparing to other industries where artificial intelligence can go into areas which are problematic. So I think when it comes to regulation, I think that what the EU has done, which is an important distinction, is to regulate on a risk basis. So you need to look at what is a high risk technology, what is a low risk technology. And I'm glad to say that I think tourism does fit in the low risk, as long as we treat the data correctly. And I think it's a combination of the regulation that's already in place on data privacy, GDPR, or international other equivalents of data protection, plus AI regulation. But it is important that it is consistent, because the worst that could happen is that every one of us would have to implement in every country different technologies, and that takes away all the scope efficiencies that we have. I would like to mention one other thing. Of course, people may know Expedia Group from its own brands, Expedia, Hotels.com, etc. But we also power a lot of other travel companies in our B2B business. And in this way, we can share the artificial intelligence technology with small players, small online companies, but also offline travel agents. And we have virtual assistants that can help, and so it makes it actually, it lowers the threshold to enter the sector as a participant to bring travelers to destinations.
Are they equipped with the same protections against a hack or just an error if they're gathering more and more data? I mean, you're a huge company, obviously, so different position presumably, but.
So the idea would be that we power their searches. So of course, as long as we do our job well, then there's not going to be a hack. So the idea is really that it's not, in my view, it's not mutually exclusive, that small companies cannot participate in this new move, and that only the big companies can invest. No, it is the idea that we invest in technology that then powers also small and medium-sized enterprises.
Thank you very much indeed. Let me bring in Sita. Patrick Svensson. Just here.
Thank you.
Again, same question really. What, in terms of what you're hearing from governments, is this what you want? What do you want more of?
Look, perfect regulation would be fantastic, but I don't know what that is. So I will leave that to the the policymakers, the lawmakers